Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're covering the last season in Pokemon's Advanced Generation series, Battle Frontier, and its film, Ranger in the Temple of the Sea.
Now, Ash continues his journey in the Kanto region as they collect frontier symbols from frontier brains in the Battle Frontier.
That sounds weird.
As well as the Pokemon coordinator May as she collects ribbons from Pokemon Contests so she can compete in the Kanto Grand Festival and so she can beat Ash because that seems to be her main goal.
Yes, they do have a lot of that in here. Before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and roll to pause videos.
Yes, and this is the last season that we see May, so it became really important for her to succeed and to have, I guess, a record of her own journey where she just wasn't accompanying Ash, but where she really got something done.
Right. And we were kind of surprised on the turnout of when it got to towards the end of the season with her contest, because for a majority of her time in the show, when she would do the contest, she only lost about maybe twice. And as it went on, she kept winning each time. So it wasn't as much of hard to tell who's going to win as with Ash, because with Ash, we'll have him with the league and stuff. But for these little individual things, you never know who's going to win. But for May, you kind of didn't have that feel most of the time because she had won so much, like one after the other, that when she lost, that was more of a shock if she actually did lose.
And then she got her some competitors in this one. We had Drew,
right,
the green hair trainer, and then we had Harley, another green hair trainer.
Right, and then Harley was, because the show went on, Harley went from being more scheming, devious, I guess, in levels of Team Rocket, though he claims he's not on their level because he's not a loser like them. He needs to get blasted off. He gets more, I'll just say, extravagant and fabulous as the show goes on. He reminds
and
you
even more devious.
And he reminds you of Can't Stop Twinkling on My Hero Academia.
Yes,
it's like, oh my gosh, he's not holding back nothing.
And he did have some unique looking Pokemon though.
Right. Definitely. And they always said they look scary. I'm like, not really, not with those poses. They weren't really scary looking. The most you had was maybe the cactus scarecrow looking Pokemon like a little bit. But the other ones look fine. They didn't look all that weird or scary. I guess they wanted to say so he was a serious trainer.
No, definitely not. And Drew, his voice actor changed, so he went from sounding like someone who really loved Pokemon and really wanted to be friends with May but have that competitive thing going still, till he began to sound like from Dexter's Laboratory.
Mandar?
Yeah, the voice actor just totally changed the perception of this character. And you did not take him as seriously when he would give May challenges or say things to her. The voice actor himself, the way they chose to voice the character, just took him out of line from how he was in season 8.
Right.
You just took him as a more serious threat. Not a threat in terms of being dangerous, but as far as a challenger.
Right.
And you like the character. And then here the voice actor just totally changed the impression the character gives.
Right. And that was one thing that was probably the biggest thing of season 9 altogether, was that all the voice actors were changed from the show.
And we had to get used to it.
Right. We first heard them before we got into season 9. There was a TV special they had. It was Mirage Pokemon. It was a 10th anniversary special of the franchise. And there we thought something was a little off with their voices. I thought it was one of them sick or something. Until we realized that they had completely overhauled the voice cast, except for maybe one or two that just voiced different characters. But that is because 4Kids Entertainment was no longer providing the dub for Pokemon. It's now done by specifically the Pokemon Company. So it's all their own people doing the voices. And it really changed the effect of some of the characters, and we had to get used to them all throughout season 9. Because we noticed that a lot of them changed in their personality with the voice cast.
Definitely. I think for this show, because there's so many episodes, you get a chance to grow and get used to them. Like, we're now used to Brock's new voice actor. We're used to James and Jesse's new voice actors.
Right.
We got used to them, I would say, before we got halfway through.
Right.
And Netflix does the same when it does original series, like it did with Kuso Psyche, with Psyche K with Kuso. And you only had so many episodes, so the weirdness you heard, you didn't get used to this different voice actor other than Jerry Jewell doing it. You just totally didn't accept it because it was so different, and there weren't enough episodes for you to get used to even seeing if you could like this voice actor doing the character. I think it worked for Pokemon because with 46 episodes,
47
episodes, you really had a long enough time to get used to the change.
Right.
But for Drew, I can't get used to it. One, because he doesn't appear enough, and two, it's so shockingly different from the original character. And I really like the character in season 8, and I like the voice actor who did him. I just can't get used to him in season 9.
And we definitely mentioned, like, quickly, since we saw this special, we saw the Mirage special before season 9, so it's kind of pressed. We want to save it for here. Quickly, we want to say that the TV special was the first time we heard these new voice actors. And for the special itself, sort of like a triple feature here with this season 9 and the movie, here it was a little weird, especially when they had their casino music going on in the background as a theme. It's supposed to be a dark and serious thing with mysterious strange. It wasn't mysterious because I knew who it was already. That was making, there was actually a professor making a hologram or illusions of Pokemon, and they were acting like they were real. And this masked man wanted to use the technology for evil purposes, and that was pretty much the whole special, stopping this guy. And in the background, you had the dang casino music. I don't know what was going on. It was an action special, and they had like like, why are you playing Vegas stuff in the middle of this? But overall, I guess it was a decent special, at least for us. It was just so jarring hearing different people at first, which we got used to.
True. Now, for this season, there were lots of fun episodes. Lots of episodes that gave us more backstory on James and Brock and May and a little bit of Harley. But it was really, I would say so far, this season had the most fun episodes.
Right.
That provided more information.
Right. And
a change in Brock's family.
Right. All together. I mean, it was vastly different from what we saw in the first season.
Right.
When he was first there, we were like, oh, this was not your family at first. Did something happen while you were gone?
Right. And all the brothers and sisters looked like him. And when we first saw them, they didn't. And then the mom was here, but she wasn't in the first one. And the dad had a different job. And it was just strange and jarring because, as you said, we were used to the first original backstory for Brock, which was more endearing. He was taking care of his 10 brothers and sisters, and his dad was off doing God knows what with the Pokemon so-called training, and Brock was responsible and took care of them, and they loved him. And then the dad came back, realized the error of his ways, and said, son, go on and you take your own journey. It was more endearing. This one, it was like they constantly nagged him, or he was so irritated by their vapidity.
Yeah.
They were just vapid. And he was always, and the brothers and sisters looked up to him still, but everybody looked like Brock.
Right, like, oh, what happened here? I guess he has a question, like, what happened to his dad? Like, well, yeah, you know for sure, they're all related.
So that was for it. And you had more fun episodes with Brock.
Right.
And then also you had a little more backstory on May and Max.
Right. And we saw way more contests in here because we also had the Battle Frontier along the contests. They kind of switched back and forth between it. And this time around, Ash was getting through the battles pretty quick. He was getting badge after badge after badge, and May was winning time after time after time. There was barely any time for the in-between episodes, because this was probably the most they've had all the battles and the contests and stuff, and there were actually fewer in-between episodes.
Now, I will say this season did give us more of an appreciation for May in terms of her being determined
Mm-hmm.
to get these ribbons and to prove herself before she went back home.
Right.
Which wasn't as obvious, at least not to me, in the other seasons. But in this one, she was just determined.
Right.
And you saw that she, like Ash, didn't want to give up, and that she really began to care how she was being perceived.
Right.
And in the end, sure, it's not a spoiler to you guys, but in the end, when she said, well, I'm going to go ahead and go out on my own, and she sent Max home, and that was kind of like jarring when you heard it, because you were like, what? And then she ended up with Harley and Drew, which really was like, what?
Yeah, like, it's a whole 180 for you. And then we also had, like I said, more episodes. There are actually a lot of episodes focused on individual characters in here as well. Mm-hmm. And they had more on Team Rocket too. But there was only one thing that was sort of the downside of the seasons, not counting, saying goodbye to another group of characters, having to get news to a new one for the next series. Pop-Pop. Yeah. There was this episode where both May's Munchlax got sick and James's Chimeco got sick. And they didn't know that was his grandparents. And they said, okay, we'll call it truce just for now because both of our Pokemon are sick. And they kind of had this weird thing where there was this weird thing where throughout the season, Jessie and Meowth were pulling crap all throughout the season, and James was more timid and didn't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And it felt odd because, the thing was, for Team Rocket, they acted crazy, but you knew they still cared about each other. They weren't all bad.
Right.
But in here, this season, they made it look like just James was the good one, and Jessie and Meowth were just cuckoo. Yeah, no matter what. And then on top of it, they don't specifically state it, but you kind of catch on. They did like Voltron 84, where they cover up when a character leaves. The thing that was really rubbed us the wrong way at first, what was weird, is that May's Munchlax got better immediately, taken care of by the same people. They were really nice, taking care of the same people. Munchlax got better, but Chimeco never did.
Right.
And he doesn't come back ever in this series, nor in future seasons, nor in Sun and Moon. It's never brought up again.
When we read like a fantasy.
Yeah, episode. And I have this feeling, unfortunately, like Voltron 84, where they didn't want to show that a character had passed, so they covered up and say, oh, they'll get better and come back. And James was really heartbroken, and we were thinking, well, okay, we know they get upset when they leave a Pokemon. Why is it this bad? And I told Mom, I'm like, I think they took out Chimeco, but they changed the dub so it wouldn't make the kids upset.
But what I never understand in this series is why are Pokemon dying? This is animation.
I don't know.
This is imaginary. I could do without this realism.
Right.
Especially you like the Pokemon. Why do you kill them off?
Right.
And this is before Disney.
Right. And it was just like, why did you gotta do that to James? And the only thing
he wanted that Chimeco so bad for so long, and then he gets it, and then you kill it and take it from him.
Oh yeah. And the only thing they did was that they had a little Mime Junior that lived with Nana and Pop Pop, and it decided to go with him so he wouldn't be sad anymore. That was, of course, really heartwarming, and he really wanted to go with him. But it just
said that it was supposed to be a temporary trip
right.
until he came back to get
right.
Chimeco.
But then when we look up online, he still doesn't come back for it.
Right.
So something's wrong. If they've left the region and it's been over 10 years, he hasn't come back for it. That's the only explanation you got, is that Chimeco didn't make it and they
right.
didn't want to address it, or they cut it out of the episode rotation.
Right. Now, another thing, since we're speaking of James, is how in this season they made him an idiot. Almost just an idiot. And we didn't care for that. I mean, Team Rocket can be goofy, but not idiotic. Mm-hmm. And in here, he was afraid of everything, and they made him not understand anything, and he said things that didn't make sense. And the only episode, this one, that made you really remind you of the true James is when he gave his word that they would have a truce. And even when Meowth and Jessie turned and broke the truce, which they never would have done, to steal everyone's Pokemon and leave, he fought with Ash and Brock and May and Max because he kept his word, and he's like, no, that's not what we were supposed to do. Mm-hmm. That was the bright light that let you know, okay, this character still is James, but why they have him behaving like this the rest of the season? So that caught me off guard. Was he supposed to be the comic relief for the entire group?
I don't know, because then they have Jessie, and you know the whole thing with her not winning any contest, which is getting annoying because she needs to win one. Yeah. They had towards the end of the season where she had a crush on a Pokemon. And I thought at first, like, okay, of course, she loves it so much, she wants to catch it like she does others. No, they meant she was in romantically love with this 2-foot-tall Pokemon because it was macho and manly. Because they pretty much wiped out the belief of you thinking Jesse and James are an item. They pretty much wiped it out. They didn't have them. They didn't want you to ship them, so they may have no interest. They have no interest in each other this season when it wasn't like that in the beginning, because you kind of wondered for a while, like, are they a thing because of how close they were? But no, they made sure they weren't close at all this season. I guess they said, no, don't ship them. The form of the Pokemon is more preferable with her than James. What's wrong with you people?
Well, we still ship them.
But I will say that the best episode, I think, would be one that was called A King and a Queen, where they had, there was another Mime Jr. and another Pokemon that there was TV stars.
Oh, that was wonderful.
And it looks just like Team Rocket's and Team Ash's Pokemon, and they made them act in there, and they kept interfering, they kept messing it up, and they were just it was just a goofball episode of crap happening, and then eventually said, Mime uses a hypnosis or something, and they would do a hula dance and go, Mime, 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 and everyone started dancing, and then narrator couldn't show him dancing, so he started acting like he was at the Oscar ceremony, like the audience got affected. It was just one of the most brilliant episodes ever. Yeah. It's just Jesse said, "You're not gonna make me have fun."
So this season was full of fun, full of backstory, full of some character changes, full of voice actor changes. But we really, really liked the season, and we can say they did a good job. Right. Now, we also watched, as we mentioned, Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea.
Right.
So we want to get to that.
Yes, and for here, we got introduced to Pokemon Rangers in general, who work more like global forest rangers, I guess, in a way. They protect Pokemon, the world, from devastation, and they
all people within our nation.
and they rescue them from danger. They keep them out of trouble. They said, like I said, it's like a wildlife protection thing with them. Mm-hmm. Don't know why they were added, but not a bad thing. But I think because the show kept being controversial from PETA because they think they were supporting animal abuse. So I guess they add a little group in here that's dedicated to saving Pokemon. And for here,
Ranger Jackie.
Jackie, yeah, you're right. Jackie, who's protecting this egg, is supposed to be, I guess, this king of the sea Pokemon.
And he was one of the most adorable Pokemon ever.
Right. And it was like a mythical type Pokemon. It's called Manaphy. Manaphy, that's what it's called.
He's so cute.
And they were delivered to an undersea pilot called Samiria, I think. Samia. And they were escaping from this pirate called Phantom the Pirate. I am not kidding. Like, Phantom the Pirate. So you couldn't say Funky Phantom Pirate. So you do Phantom the Pirate. That's the best we got. And they even got a reference to how he acted. The villain acted like Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob.
Yes.
Because even Jessie said we need to get away from this Krusty Krab.
She did.
Like, so did they really do that? So that was basically the plot of this movie.
And this egg hatched and got attached to May.
Right, thinking
just like the one that got attached to Missy.
Yeah,
Misty.
Right, it hatched thinking that May was its mother because it was the first thing it saw. Right. So you really did enjoy the little bond she had with it, because all throughout the season, everyone had their little bonding moment with the Pokemon.
And this one spoke.
Right.
Surprisingly, it learned to speak some words.
Right.
He was like, when he saw May, it would be happy.
Right.
Mama. It was so cute.
Right. It's like, oh my goodness. And,
love you.
And you got really attached to this little arc going on because, as we said with the, when it gets to the regular series and the battles and stuff, what you kind of like is that, you know, they work so well together because of their bonds throughout the series, and when they get to the contests and battles, you see how much effort they put into the determination. Like, Ash is really determined to win this, and he's really headstrong when it comes to doing the battles, and you can see how well he's bonded with his Pokemon, how he keeps coming out on top and winning.
And you can also see how he affects other people they don't know when they see the closeness of him to his Pokemon, how he treats them with respect, treats them as friends, how he doesn't just treat them like they're something to use, and how he will literally sacrifice himself to save them. Save them, I'm sorry. He makes an impression on other Pokemon trainers to be better to their Pokemon.
Right. And May had the same thing, seeing how she's first started with Pokemon, and she really does care about these Pokemon, and she even starts to get more traits of Ash because they keep bringing it up towards the end of her run, that she is she's evenly matched with Ash in terms of skill and dedication, which is a great thing to hear because Ash is very inspirational. So I definitely want to mention one thing about a certain character he meets up after we finish covering the movie. Going back to the movie, the bond with Pokemon is always really great to see, and there's always many types of ways they do it. And seeing with May, it was more like, you know, the motherly bond, but it was really endearing because you got attached to this Pokemon really quickly, and the adventure was really, really fun.
Yes,
I like the design of the Sea Palace that was really, really grand and wasn't just one little thing or a shell or something that they just drew in that city. It was like a whole city and thing, and intricate. And Ash got Aquaman powers, and that's another thing you can add to his list of achievements. Ash has everything in the world. Good grief. It was like Aqua Ash.
This was a fantastic movie without going into a whole lot of detail and maybe having spoilers for this versus the season. This was a wonderful movie. As I said, this is one of the cutest Pokemon ever. Just adorable.
Right.
So what was the last thing you wanted to mention?
Oh, there was one thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about the season in general. When Ash met one of the Frontier Brains, it was this girl who kind of like a boy, and she was voiced by...
And I figured it out. It's Pidge!
Right?
I said, Rascal, that's Pidge! Bex Taylor Klaus. I mean, absolutely was a younger version of her, but it was absolutely no way that this was not Bex Taylor Klaus, because she sounded just like Pidge. Everything, the inflection, everything.
Right.
And then when she was, and then of all people, she falls for Ash.
And I'm like, oh gosh.
She's like, he doesn't even know it. She's
the feelings, yeah. And like, at first you're thinking, okay, maybe not, but then towards the end, it's like, oh gosh. And now Ash is, what's with the deal with every girl, including Sylveon, falling for Ash? Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. It's like, Ash is the bachelor of Pokemon or anime. Every time a girl is falling in love with him after doing a battle or something.
He's so clueless. Oh, Ash, he's so clueless.
I'm really surprised that May liked him at some point.
Well, he probably only had alleys for Sylveon.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that up. I thought it was hilarious because Ash is the bachelor, basically. I'm just going to call him that, the bachelor. Every time a girl likes him, that's what he is now.
So have you seen Pokemon Season 9 as well, and the movie?
And the anniversary
Pokemon
special.
Ranger and the Temple of the Sea.
And the anniversary special.
Let us know what you think in the comments below.
And be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future Paws podcasts and World of Paws videos.
And more Pokemon.
Yes. So, and we're finally on Season 10.
Yes.
So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Masculine Entertainment.
I'm Mama Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace. And Mama, happy, love you.
And reporters sitting, flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket, give it to you later on in the form of a locket.